A woman crouches by a riverbank at dawn, her weathered hands expertly weaving plant fibers into a watertight basket. Nearby, another woman carefully selects stones for tool making, while keeping one eye on the children playing at her feet. This isn't the passive, berry-picking existence we've been told about. This is the reality of Stone Age women, skilled technologies, hunters, healers, and the backbone of human survival. For decades, we've been fed a simple story about prehistoric gender roles. Men hunted mammoths while women gathered berries and tended fires. But groundbreaking archaeological research is completely rewriting this narrative, revealing that Stone Age women were far more capable, active, and essential than we ever imagined. When we talk about Stone Age women, we're discussing a period spanning roughly 2.5 million years ago to about 12,000 years ago, over 99% of human history. These weren't primitive cave dwellers waiting for men to bring home dinner. They were sophisticated survivors whose daily lives were filled with complex tasks requiring incredible skill, strength, and intelligence. Recent studies analyzing prehistoric women's arm bones have made a shocking discovery. These women had upper body strength that exceeded today's elite female rowers by 5 to 10%. Their pulling power was comparable to modern Olympic athletes. This wasn't from occasional berry picking, this was from hours of daily grinding grain, digging with wooden tools, hauling water, and processing tough plant materials. The evidence comes from multiple sources. Archaeological sites preserve their tools, food remains, and living spaces. Cave art shows women in various activities. Most importantly, recent analysis of 429 Stone Age individuals found that of 27 people buried with hunting tools, 11 were women and 16 were men. This suggests that 30 to 50% of big game hunters were actually female. So what exactly filled the days of these remarkable women? Let's step back in time and discover the truth about Stone Age women's lives. The Stone Age woman's day began before sunrise. Unlike our modern world of artificial lighting, these women lived by natural rhythms. As the first light appeared, they were already moving, their bodies attuned to seasonal changes and daily necessities. The morning started with rekindling the fire, a task requiring skill and patience. Archaeological evidence from sites like Terra Amata in France shows that maintaining fire was absolutely critical for survival. Starting fire from scratch was difficult and time-consuming, so most groups kept embers burning overnight. Women often took responsibility for this vital task, understanding that fire meant warmth, protection from predators, cooked food, and light for evening activity. Water collection was typically a woman's responsibility, and it wasn't as simple as turning on a tap. Women traveled to streams, springs, or other water sources, carrying water back in containers they had crafted themselves, animal bladders, woven baskets, or eventually, pottery. This required knowledge of local geography, seasonal water availability, and container-making skills. The bulk of a Stone Age woman's day revolved around food acquisition and processing. Contrary to popular belief, plant gathering wasn't passive berry picking. It required extensive botanical knowledge, physical strength, and sophisticated processing techniques. Women needed to identify hundreds of edible plant species, understand their growth cycles, know when and where to find them, and master complex preparation methods. Many plants required grinding, cooking, or other processing to make them digestible or remove natural toxins. Studies of dental calculus from Stone Age teeth reveal traces of numerous plant species, including medicinal plants, showing the breadth of women's botanical expertise. Plant gathering was physically demanding work. Women climbed trees to reach fruits and nuts, dug deep into the ground for tubers and roots, and traveled long distances carrying heavy loads. They used digging sticks, grinding stones, and cutting tools they had made themselves. The repetitive motion of grinding grain for hours each day built the incredible arm strength that archaeologists have discovered in their bones. But women didn't just gather plants. Recent research has shattered the myth that only men hunted. Archaeological evidence from North and South America shows women actively participated in hunting both small and large game. In various cultures, women used nets, traps, and projectile weapons. They hunted alongside men and sometimes independently. Women's physiology actually gave them certain hunting advantages. While men might have more explosive power for short bursts, women have superior endurance capabilities. The hormone estrogen, more prominent in women, helps with fat metabolism and prevents muscle breakdown, perfect for the long-distance tracking and persistence hunting that was common in the Stone Age. Toolmaking consumed significant portions of women's time. This wasn't occasional maintenance, but constant skilled work. Stone tools dulled quickly and required regular resharpening or replacement. Women crafted cutting tools, scrapers for hide preparation, grinding stones for food processing, and specialized implements for various tasks. Archaeological evidence shows women were skilled in working with multiple materials. They shaped stone through careful flaking techniques, carved bone and antler into needles and hooks, and worked wood into handles and containers. Each tool required understanding of material properties, intended function, and manufacturing techniques passed down through generations. The process of creating stone tools was incredibly sophisticated. Women understood the fracture properties of different stone types, knew how to heat-treat materials to improve their workability, and could predict how stones would break when struck. They created specialized tools for different purposes: thin, sharp blades for cutting meat, thick scrapers for processing hides, and pointed awls for making holes in leather. Food processing was perhaps the most time-consuming daily activity. Raw plant foods often required extensive preparation. Nuts needed cracking and sometimes grinding. Tough roots required pounding or cooking. Seeds needed processing to remove husks. Meat required butchering, cutting, and often preservation through drying. Women developed sophisticated food preservation techniques essential for survival. They created early forms of jerky by drying meat, used underground storage pits to keep foods cool, and in colder regions, utilized natural freezing for preservation. These weren't simple tasks, but complex processes, requiring timing, technique, and environmental knowledge. The knowledge required for food processing was encyclopedic. Women knew which plants needed soaking to remove bitterness, which required cooking to neutralize toxins, and which could be eaten raw. They understood fermentation processes that made some foods more nutritious and digestible. They knew how to extract oils from nuts and seeds, how to make plant-based medicines, and how to create dyes for decorating clothing and body. Cooking revolutionized human nutrition, and women were central to this innovation. Control of fire for cooking dates back at least 400,000 years. Cooking made many foods more digestible, released more calories, and neutralized toxins in certain plants. Women experimented with different cooking methods, developed recipes, and passed culinary knowledge to their daughters. Women invented numerous cooking techniques that we still use today. They developed roasting, boiling, steaming, and smoking methods. They created earth ovens by digging pits, lining them with stones, and using hot coals to cook food slowly over many hours. They learned to wrap foods in leaves for steaming, and discovered that certain combinations of foods provided better nutrition than eating them separately. Clothing production was an entirely women's domain and required remarkable skill. During colder periods, proper clothing meant survival. Women processed animal hides using stone scrapers to remove fat and tissue. They softened hides through various techniques, cut them into patterns, and sewed them together using bone needles and plant fiber thread. The process of creating a single garment involved hunting or trading for materials, processing the hide, making tools for sewing, and hours of careful handwork. Archaeological sites have yielded bone needles and hide-working tools, testament to women's textile expertise. Hide preparation was a multi-step process, requiring days of work. Women first removed all flesh and fat from fresh hides using sharp stone scrapers. They then treated the hides with various substances, animal brains, plant tannins, or other materials, to prevent decay and make them flexible. The hides were stretched, worked, and sometimes smoked to achieve the desired texture and durability. Women created different types of clothing for different purposes. They made lightweight garments for warm weather, heavily insulated clothing for cold conditions, and waterproof items for wet environments. They decorated clothing with beads, shells, feathers, and dyes, creating both functional and beautiful garments that expressed individual and group identity. Shelter construction and maintenance required women's constant attention. While men might help with initial construction, women typically managed daily upkeep. They repaired weather damage, maintained interior organization, and kept living spaces clean and functional. Archaeological evidence from sites like Mezhyrich in Ukraine shows sophisticated shelter construction using mammoth bones, arranged in circular patterns and covered with hides. Inside these shelters, women organized space for different activities: sleeping areas, food processing zones, tool-making spaces, and storage areas. Women were responsible for creating comfortable and efficient living spaces. They made bedding from animal furs and plant materials, created storage systems for tools and food, and maintained proper ventilation for fires. They understood how to arrange living spaces to maximize warmth in winter and cooling in summer. Child rearing was integrated into all other activities. Stone Age women typically had around 6 children, with high infant mortality rates. Unlike modern-age, in segregated childcare, children participated in adult activities from early ages, learning essential skills through observation and practice. Women taught children plant identification, tool making, food processing, and cultural knowledge. This education was hands-on and continuous, with children gradually taking on more responsibilities as they matured. Girls learned by helping their mothers with daily tasks, while boys also learned from women before specializing in male activities. The teaching methods women used were sophisticated and effective. They used songs and stories to help children remember important information about plants, animals, and survival techniques. They created games that taught essential skills while keeping children engaged. They understood child development and adjusted their teaching methods to match children's abilities and attention spans. Healthcare fell largely to women. Analysis of Stone Age dental calculus shows evidence of medicinal plants, suggesting women served as healers and herbalists. They treated injuries, assisted in childbirth, and cared for sick community members. Several Stone Age skeletons show evidence of healed serious injuries, indicating sophisticated medical knowledge and community care. Women's medical knowledge was extensive and detailed. They knew which plants could reduce fever, which could stop bleeding, and which could ease pain during childbirth. They understood basic anatomy and could set broken bones, treat wounds, and perform minor surgical procedures. They developed techniques for managing difficult births and caring for premature infants. Women's social roles extended far beyond their immediate families. They maintained relationships between different groups through marriage alliances, trade partnerships, and shared knowledge. Archaeological evidence shows exotic materials found hundreds of miles from their sources, indicating extensive trade networks that women likely helped maintain. Women often served as diplomats and negotiators between groups. Their marriages created alliances between bands, and they maintained these relationships through ongoing communication and exchange. They shared information about resource locations, weather patterns, and potential dangers, creating networks of mutual support that enhanced survival for all groups. Art and symbolic expression were significant parts of women's lives. While we can't always identify the gender of ancient artists, evidence suggests women participated in creating cave paintings, portable figurines, and decorative objects. The earliest definitively human art includes ochre processing at Blombos Cave in South Africa, dating back almost 100,000 years. Women likely played crucial roles in developing and maintaining cultural traditions. They created and performed music using bone flutes and drums, participated in storytelling that preserved cultural knowledge, and developed symbolic systems that laid foundations for human communication. The artistic work women produced served multiple purposes. Decorative items enhanced social status and group identity. Symbolic objects played roles in religious or spiritual practices. Artistic traditions helped preserve and transmit cultural knowledge across generations. Women's creativity contributed to the development of human symbolic thinking and cultural complexity. Seasonal variations dramatically affected women's daily routines. Spring meant gathering fresh greens and eggs, summer focused on berries and young plants, autumn required intensive nut gathering and food preservation for winter, while winter relied more heavily on stored foods and indoor activities like tool making and hide processing. Women developed sophisticated strategies for managing seasonal challenges. They created detailed mental calendars tracking when different plants would be ready for harvest, when animals would be most vulnerable to hunting, and when weather conditions would be most favorable for various activities. They planned months ahead, ensuring adequate food storage and appropriate clothing for changing conditions. Women's work was never done. Archaeological evidence suggests they worked longer hours than men, combining subsistence activities with childcare, food processing, tool maintenance, and social responsibilities. Their days were filled from dawn to dusk with essential tasks requiring skill, strength, and intelligence. The physical demands on Stone Age women were extraordinary. Recent studies comparing prehistoric women's bones to modern athletes reveal the incredible strength these women developed through daily activities. Their arm bones show evidence of repetitive stress from grinding, their leg bones show development from long-distance walking, and their overall skeletal structure indicates lives of constant physical activity. Trade and exchange were important aspects of women's economic activities. Women likely controlled certain trade goods, particularly those related to food processing, textiles, and medicinal plants. They maintained relationships with other groups, facilitating the exchange of materials, knowledge, and genetic diversity essential for small population survival. Women's innovations drove human technological development. They likely invented many food processing techniques, developed textile technologies, created storage solutions, and improved tool designs. Their daily problem-solving led to innovations that enhanced survival and quality of life for entire communities. The archaeological record reveals that Stone Age women were far from passive dependents. They were active agents in human survival and cultural development. Their strength, skills, and intelligence were essential for the success of human societies during the longest period of our species' existence. Modern research continues to reveal new aspects of Stone Age women's lives. Advanced analytical techniques allow archaeologists to extract more information from ancient remains, challenging old assumptions and revealing the complexity of prehistoric gender roles. What emerges from this evidence is a picture of Stone Age women as remarkable individuals who combined physical strength with intellectual capability, practical skills with creative expression, and individual survival with community cooperation. They weren't primitive ancestors, but sophisticated humans whose innovations and daily work laid the foundations for all subsequent human achievements. The next time you imagine Stone Age life, don't picture passive women waiting in caves. Instead, envision skilled technologists grinding grain with powerful arms, knowledgeable botanists identifying hundreds of plant species, innovative hunters tracking game across vast landscapes, talented artists creating symbolic expressions, and dedicated mothers raising the next generation while contributing essential skills to community survival. Stone Age women did far more than we ever imagined. They were the backbone of human survival, the drivers of innovation, and the keepers of cultural knowledge. Their daily lives were filled with complex, demanding, and essential work that required extraordinary capabilities. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving, creating and building the foundation for human civilization.